I'm going to tell you about one of the most meaningful moments in my life. In 1995 and again in 1997, I was fortunate enough to spend some time at the United States Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. I can remember thinking as I walked those halls of death and despair, thank God it wasn't me or my family, but it could have been. My name is Lucy and my grandmother is Jewish. I'm going to tell you about my life growing up in a mixed religion family, what I have learned from my grandmother, and how it has shaped the person I am today. I grew up in a mostly non-religious home where basically, as long as we tried to be good people, there were no worries of hell or damnation in the afterlife. I have 2 half-brothers and 1 half-sister. All of the kids in my family, including my cousins, went to church each week, but I think the only reason my mother made us go was so that she could have a break from the 4 kids she was raising alone. My mother divorced my father just after I was born, so the only real male influence I had came from my grandfather. He was a Christian man married to a Jewish woman, so I'm sure you can imagine how holidays went at my grandparents' house. It was never just Christmas or just Hanukkah. Have you ever stopped to think of what it must be like to be judged for your race or your religion? My grandmother never looked down on us for not following the Jewish faith. She had her holiday traditions as my grandfather had his. We would decorate the Christmas tree with crosses and stars, tiny menorahs, and dreidels. My grandfather would tell stories of walking to school uphill both ways in 12 feet of snow and sleeping in trees, all the while sharing 1 pair of shoes between 6 kids, and he would wink throughout each story. My grandmother would tell stories of her family fleeing Poland just before the Nazi occupation, and of the letters they received from family who stayed behind becoming less and less frequent as time went on. Eventually they stopped coming altogether. I can remember every story my grandmother ever told me. She never winked once. She taught me never to judge based on appearance or where someone came from. She taught me that life should be cherished because it will all be over too soon. For some, before it ever really started. Today I like to think that I'm a strong, intelligent person. I'm tolerant and I'm gracious. I have certain worldviews that I don't think I could have gained without my grandmother. Thinking back to the time I spent at the Holocaust Museum, I don't think I could have walked away with the same sense of hope if I hadn't heard the stories from my grandmother firsthand. I've told you about my childhood, about my grandmother, and who I am today. I hope it has made you think and may interest you enough to visit the museum for yourself, or at least the website. It was a terrible time in history, but an important one. We must never allow history to repeat itself. These atrocities cannot happen again. I leave you with these words in hopes that you will live by them and know that they are true. It is an excerpt from the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. In spite of everything, I still believe people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes on the foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder, which will destroy us too. I can feel the sufferings of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again.